Hey gang, this is Gregory here. I'm gonna do a really quick tip, trick, whatever you're gonna call it, and I am actually gonna give credit to Justin Wolf over at Wolf Customs because he's the first one I saw that demonstrated these beauties. These are wax. I like to call them wax chips. Basically, you're taking round cotton swabs that ladies use for removing makeup, and I couldn't find any that didn't have the quilting in it, the pleating in there. I just couldn't find any, so I'm using these to see how they work anyway. But I have another trick that I wanted to add, and that's these little babies here. So I am heating up the wax as we speak, and you can see. Let's see if I can show you in the pot here. The candles are melting down. These are just some old candles. I got a bag of old junk candles. They're only a couple inches long, burned down from full size candles, and most people might have a bunch of those in the drawer. So I also have a jar, just a regular throwaway jar. You can use a can. You can. I found a cat food tin that I used, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with this in just a minute. The nice thing about the jar I'll share with you is it has a lid. This one we threw away, but if you have a jar with a lid, I'll show you why that's great in a minute. And I want to show you, more importantly, where these babies come from. So basically, all I've done is I've taken some Q-tips, just regular cotton swabs that you have in your medicine closet, and what I'll do is I cut them in half. So now I have two little nibs of a cotton swab, and what I can do then, I got one more here. I'm holding it with both hands just because I don't want them going flying, because if I was cutting them before and it went shooting off into outer space, so I didn't want to lose them. So what I do with these is, now that again this little tin, this aluminum pan, I just picked this up at thrift store. Don't use your good pots for this kind of thing. What I'll do is I'll just take it, dip it in the wax. Obviously, is pretty simple, and then set it on some tin foil so it can dry. Let it dry overnight, or stick it in the fridge, or whatever you want to do. Now, what these are great for, you might thinking, is it's not so much a fire starter in the sense of like emergency, quick. Oh yeah, it's in wax, so so it's not, the cotton's not going to get wet. Although it may work for that. But what I do is I'll do a lot of camping, family style camping out of the car and whatnot, and I also just built a little fire pit for the backyard. So what I'm going to be using these for, and I've already tried this and it works great, is really more like a fire starter. So rather than sitting there, holding a lighter or whatever, what I like to do, and needing lots and lots of tinder and small stuff and paper and all kinds of whatever to get it started, all I do is I take one of these that's been made before, and I take my lighter like I'm lighting a candle, light this, stick it in the fire wherever I want. This will burn for a good minute or whatever, and that way I have time. I can really easily build up the fire around that as a really simple fire starter, instead of going to the store and buying an expensive one from the store. This is just a fun thing to do. I have the time, and it's a neat little project to work on. Another trick is when you melt down old candles. This came from some red candles. These are the ones that I made these chips out of. You'll get the wicks in the bottom of the pan, and if you save the wicks, you can do the same thing with these. I can light this with a match, and it's going to slowly burn because it's just wax, so it's going to burn slowly, and it'll be easier to start a fire. What I'm actually going to do today is I'm going to show you how I use one of these sticks, set it over here with a wick like this, dangling down into the jar here, and we're going to make a new candle. That's a reused wax candle. And the nice thing about, again, the jar, if you have the lid for the jar and you burn the candle for, say, I don't know, an hour or something, you're ready to go to bed or you don't need the candle anymore, put the lid on the jar, and the candle's going to go out, and you can reuse it again and again. Maybe you get 4 or 5 uses or 10 uses out of it if you only burn the candle for a little while. And I found that that's a great way, because if I do these little cotton swabs, I'd have to do hundreds of these cotton swabs in order to use up all the candle wax that's in the pot. So what I'm going to do with this is I just take, I use a pair of needle nose. They don't, it's nothing special. You can use tweezers or whatever. You just dunk this. Now I'm going to do something different. You can see on these, I dunked the whole thing and it's just covered in wax. And some of these, I'll show you on these. These were dipped twice. Once with the blue wax and once with the red wax. With these, I'm going to leave a little hair, a little corner of the cotton. I'm going to try to leave a corner of the cotton free, because what I think that's going to do is, now if I go and I try to make a fire using a ferro rod, ferrocerium rod, or try to strike a flame with a flint or something like that, now I think I'll have that little bit of cotton that'll catch the sparks from that. Just try it. And actually, probably even if I'm using a lighter with the cotton exposed, the cotton will catch immediately, whereas with the wax, where they're fully embedded with wax, or like these the cotton Q-tips, I have to hold my lighter onto it for a good few seconds, in order for the wax to catch fire. So I'm going to try this with these and do a handful of them with a little bit of a tab, if you will, of cotton, and see how those work to light these with the ferro rod. I'm also going to try using these to see if I can break them up and get some of the cotton out of there, but I kind of doubt it. I have a feeling that's not going to work. So I got this aluminum foil set here that I can set these on. That way I don't. It's easy to deal with once they've dried. And I'm not going to make a whole heck of a lot of these. I don't really need all that many. I just wanted to show you guys the trick. Now, I tried. This one is a remnant, because what I tried the first time was to leave the Q-tip and then dip it one side, dip the other side, and then figured I'd just cut it after the fact. Okay, that kind of got caught, so just to recap what I was saying about this is, I originally had thought, leave it solid, dunk it twice, come back in the camera, leave it solid, dunk it once, turn it over, dunk it again, set it down to dry, then cut it later. Works just fine, but I found that it's easier to just cut these ahead of time, one dunk, get the excess to drip off, stick it on your tray, and you can make a whole gang of these really quick. And these are fantastic. Like I said, they're like, it's funny, they're almost like a little mini hand torch or something. So anyway, I've made 5 of these, the new circle chips, the wax chips I'm calling them, and I'm just going to finish out the ones I have cut here. And then I have that candle sitting there. I'll show you how I'm going to do that in just a second. All right, like one and one more here. A couple of safety tips. First of all, keep a towel or something handy. This is an aluminum pan. This handle will get hot, so if you need to pull the pot off for some reason, or when I'm ready to pour it in there, I don't want to just grab it with my bare hand. Also, don't use the best pots in the house. If you do that, your mom, your husband, your wife, whoever does the cooking will be very upset. I'll show you how easy it is to clean this out in just a couple minutes, or just a moment. One more thing I wanted to mention is that you don't have to go and spend money. These are only 99 cents for 80 of them. So, dollar stores are great. But this cotton came out of a vitamin jar, or maybe some like aspirin or something like that. I can do the exact same thing with this, and if I want to, I can even make multiple bits of it, and just like here, like See how easily this pulls apart? It's just cotton, and just pull a little tab like that, and boom, done. Same thing. Soak it in there, let it dry, and it'll do the same thing that these little circle things have done. The nice thing about the medicine, what do they call these, cotton rounds? The nice thing about the cotton rounds is that they stack. You can stack them like this, and that's, I don't know. It just makes it easier to store and transport them. Now, I had mentioned that you'll find the wicks at the bottom, which I have now ready to do. So I'm gonna pull out the wicks. You see, they come right out. Same thing. I just set them on the set them on the paper here, aluminum foil, and let these dry as well. All right. Let me do this. Pull these all out here. And all right, come on, sucker. There's a little bit. Sometimes you'll find that candle has like a plastic coating on it. It's not an actual fully waxed candle. What I found is that it melts into the bottom. So there's a little bit of gunk at the bottom of this. You can see, maybe you can see, I don't know if you can see that like goopy stuff dripping off of there. It doesn't matter. It won't hurt anything. It's going to be kind of funky, it looks gnarly, but it's not going to hurt a thing. So I'm pulling all these out. Now, for this next bit, I could use, and actually that's what I did for the first couple when I made the first candle. I had a remnant. I had a cat food tin that I found out in the street. It just was, somebody's trash that maybe the recycling guys, when they drove their truck by, it fell off the truck, or who knows what, something like that maybe. So I used that. It was easy to reuse one of these wicks. Another way, I'm gonna pause. I can clean these off really easily with my lighter, and the wax will just melt right off. So I'm not worried about there being wax on my needle nose. But what I was saying is, what I'm gonna show you about this is you can also get just cotton twine. This is the kind of cotton twine that butchers use. If you go to a really authentic kind of butcher shop or something, they use this to wrap your meat, or they used to. A lot of times now they just use tape. Used to use this stuff, but you can find this anywhere. Your 99-cent store will probably have it. Your hardware store will have it. It's just cotton twine. Okay, it's got to be cotton. Don't get anything that has nylon, because nylon will melt. It won't burn. So using this as our wick, what I've done is I've taken this, make sure it's in the camera there. That's good enough. I've taken this stirring rod and just looped it around. I didn't even tie a knot. I just loop it around there a couple times. And what I want to do is I want to get it down to the bottom of the jar and try to get, when you look from above, try to get the string as much as you can in the middle of the container. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this somewhere again that's not going to make a big mess. And let's see here. Move these out of the way. And put that right there. So that way if I do spill it, it doesn't get all over the stove. So now again, like I mentioned, grab a towel or whatever you need to, pot holder or what have you, so you don't burn the heck out of your hand. And this is still liquid. I've just kept it on low the whole time. I didn't need to be on high or anything, just on low. It's nice and liquid. And now what I'm going to do is just pour it right into the jar as gingerly as you can. And you can see, I will show you in a moment, I did spill some on the countertop. So exactly what I was trying to avoid. The nice thing about it is all you need is a paper towel. And we can wipe that right up. It's just wax. It comes right off. I tried to pour it flawlessly and failed, but that's okay. So that's why we make sure we have precautions. All right, so now Now I have this wax in there. It's not full, so I'm going to go ahead and melt down those other candles, pour this in here, and I'll be done. Now, before I do that, because I wanted to show you how easy it is to clean up this pan, you take your paper towel, and it's going to be hot, so be careful, but you can just wipe out the bottom. Oh, the plastic stuck. See now? So this is a fail, guys. Look at that. That's the plastic from the candle. I didn't know that it was in there. It will come out, but it's going to be a little trickier to get it out. And this is why you don't use good pots. Well, that was a fail. Normally, what happens, and you can see anywhere that plastic isn't, it just wipes right out. So, unfortunately, I will deal with that later. I'm not going to make you guys sit through this. So, hope you enjoyed the tricks, tips. Sometimes it goes exactly as you planned, sometimes it doesn't. Just account for that, and hopefully this will come in handy for you guys. I've got to insert this. Always, 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 when you're working with heat, fire, flame, be careful, take proper safety precautions, and always play it safe. So, I had to say this because I realized I didn't when I did my first quick recording. This is glass. Glass gets hot. Do not fill the glass jar with the wax and then put it directly in the fridge. You'll very likely shatter the glass and make a big mess. At best, it'll just crack. So let this get to room temperature first. Let it sit for a couple of hours at least, if not overnight. And wax will harden at room temperature, so you don't even have to put it in the fridge. If you want to speed it along, at least let the jar get to room temperature to where it's no more than warm to the touch before you think about putting it in the fridge. If you use an aluminum can, don't have to worry so much. The aluminum can take it. This was the first can I mentioned. It was an old Fancy Feast tin can I found in the yard, outside. And I also cut a can in half, folded in the lip so that it's not sharp around the edges. This one didn't work that well. It kind of leaked out a little bit. So I'm not sure how well that is going to work in the long run. But hey, we gave it a shot. I have more melted wax here, and I'm just going to go ahead and finish off these three candles, what have you. I put out a little more wax paper just because I did spill it the first time, so I thought I'd try to be a little more ginger this time, and again I spilled it. And what are you gonna do? That's why I'm being extra cautious. And there's a little more room in this one, so I'm just gonna fill that in, and I'm gonna fill this one in with the last bit of it. Okay, and then I can, while it's still hot, again, take a paper towel and try to wipe this out. Again, I used a crummy old pot that I don't care about. I paid $1 for it. So that is no concern to me. If it was one of my good pans that I use for cooking, I would be upset. And so, luckily, it doesn't matter. I can just wipe it out, and we're all set. Turn this off. Also, remember, just low heat is fine for what you're doing. It doesn't need to be on high heat. I'm probably repeating myself, and I apologize for that. So since this is a dedicated pan just for tasks like shop tasks and hobby stuff, I really don't care about the bottom. So I'm lucky. So again, I'm gonna let this cool for hours before I mess with it, because this is hot to the touch. And these, it doesn't matter. These will dry in no time. All right. Thanks, and back to the show. All right. Simple homemade candles from remnants. All this stuff pretty much is just stuff lying around. I mean, except maybe the twine. You can do just about anything you need to with stuff you find around the house. All right. Thanks for dropping in. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you out there on the trail.